Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Nedarim Daf Zayin, we are going to begin on the top of Zayin Amud Aleph. We've been exploring whether or not there is a din yad when it comes to other things. A yad, as we saw when it comes to Nedarim, even if it's not the entire thing, but just like a handle, if you lift up the handle, the entire cup goes up. So too, when you make a statement which is not complete, it's understood what you mean, and therefore it's a valid neder. Do we also say that when it comes to other things, such as the following? Yesh yad l'sadaka, o ein yad l'sadaka. Do we say that there's a yad when it comes to giving charity, in your words? Now, hey chadami, what exactly happened? Ilay mediyomer hadain zuzah l'sadaka. That you said, I'm going to give this particular money to sadaka, which is very clear. And then you said regarding other money, hadain nami. You said also, and this is the way it said the same point when on the previous daf, that once you say nami, who's tzedakah atzmahi, then that certainly is tzedakah. There's no question that certainly that counts. El kagundi omer hadain v'loy omer nami. You said that it's this, but you didn't say also. Since you didn't say nami, the question is, are you linking this money to the original money that is for sure tzedakah? My hadain nami tzedakah kaimer. The fact that you said hadain, is that also considered to be tzedakah? O dilma my v'hadain, and again the question says parentheses and nami. It just means lenafkusa ba'alma kaimer. It's just saying that this money could be utilized for other expenses. V'diburahu delay aske. And again, basically, you just weren't particular in your language. Mi'amrin and kivan de iskish karbanos. So do we say that since tzedakah in certain respects is compared to karbanos nechsib beficha zu tzedakah, so Rashi over here says beficha and quotes the pasuk kasher dibarta beficha yotza mipi tzedakah. So there is this hekish between that pasuk of tzedakah to karbanos, and we know that my karbanos yeshlen yad. When it comes to karbanos, we said even if you don't say specific, when it comes to a carbon, it's a valid carbon. So av tzedakah yesh lo yad. So the fact that we learn out of hekesh from karbanos that there should be therefore also yad by tzedakah. Ol dilma no laval ta'acher hu de iskish. Maybe it's only come to tell you that it's linked when it comes to bal ta'acher, and that's it. So look in Rashi. O dilma shani tzedakah hachi isla yad. There is a yad deloi chazia el aniyim. Avol hefker. Okay, we didn't see that yet. So let's just see one more piece, and then we're going to see the Ran, what the din is, what the halach is, because he just ends it off. Yesh yad lehefker. O dilma ein yad lehefker. Is there yad when it comes to making something ownerless? And where says, what do you mean? Hainu tzedakah. Seemingly it's the same question. You're giving away charity. You're giving something to be ownerless. Now, imtim solar mekamer. Imtim solar yesh yad l'tzedakah. If in fact there is a yad for tzedakah, the ein hekesh l'mechsa, because you can't make a hekesh halfway. So therefore, since tzedakah, there is a hekesh to karbanos, that's going to be not just for bal tacher, but for all matters. So hefker miyarmin and hainu tzedakah. Do we say, well, hefker is like tzedakah? Dilma shani tzedakah, the tzedakah chazi el aniyim. Tzedakah you can only give to the poor. El hefker ben laniyim ben lashirim. When it comes to hefker, it's for the poor and the rich. Now let's look at Rashi. Lahachi isli yad doloi chazia el aniyim. So when it comes to tzedakah, there's a yad which is only for the poor. Avol hefker dehanami afil ashirim chazi, that even someone who's rich, if they find something ownerless, it's okay. Miyamar diyesh lehen yad. So in other words, we don't necessarily say that hefker is exactly the same as tzedakah, because tzedakah is only for the poor, and hefker can be for anyone. Now, if we look at actually, let's finish this before we see the Ran. Boy Ravina, yesh yad lo besa kisei oylo. Is there a yad for a bathroom or not? So in this, the Ran says she also likros bo kriya shema. So the question is this a place? Because you can't say kriya shema in a besa kisei. So what's the din? So Rashi says mi havi hazmana vi also l'spal boy. So the question is that when Deloy Omer Beferish, you didn't say explicitly this is a bathroom, is there an element of hazmana? Once you say hazmana milsa, so then it's a basic kisin. You can't say krishma, or as Rashi says, you can't daven there. So hechidami, the Gemara asks, if you designated this house is for a bathroom, so that's for sure basic kisei. Hadain nami, and you say, and this one also, so since you said nami, no basic kisei nami havi. So this is definitely a bathroom. And therefore you can't say krishma. You didn't say the word nami. Hadain the amar b'hadain nami mesaki say the fact that you said hadain is like you said this one is also a bathroom and therefore you can't say shema on it. You're just saying, and regarding to this one, and I'm going to use it for some other usage, but it's not necessarily clear that you're linking it to the first bathroom. So Ravina, fine. So Machlal, we can infer from here, Ravina, that there is this element of hazmana when it comes to a bathroom. That even if it was never used as a bathroom, but it was designated as a bathroom, that's enough. Now, the truth is, Ravina, this was actually a question. Hazmino besakise mahu, hazmino besamerchatz mahu. So that question was actually posed whether or not there is a din hazmana when it comes to a bathhouse or a bathroom. Mahu zimin moil o ein zimin moil. So Ravina chad migoy chad b'kim boile zimin moil o ein zimin moil. Imtim solomer yesh zimun. If in fact there is a concept of zimun, then the question is yesh yad o ein yad. So tiboile. So these are good questions. Tiboile. It's a teku by tzedakah, by hefker, and by a basic kisei. And maybe by kedushin. Now let's look at the Ran. Le'inyan halacha b'kedushin. So when you said by kedushin, as we saw in yesterday's daf, you gave 2 prutos to one girl, and you said hari mekadeshus to her. So there's no question you're married to her. The question is the chaverta. Was it that the other pruta, that this woman is a shliach for the other one, and therefore there is a yad in that now we say the din is that you're married to the second one, or maybe not. So Rashi says, so the Ran says like this: we go strict. What is strict? So diyesh yad, that there is a yad. We said that you are now married to the second woman. So it's a suffix deraisa, because you may be married, may not. So therefore we say that you're married b'suffix, which l'chayra means that you'd probably have to give a get at that point. Ubepeya usadaka, we also mentioned yesterday's stuff about peya, and here we mentioned about sadaka. This is a little bit more challenging, which is going to be question number 1. Let's look at question 1 before we see the round. Ha'ima halacha yesh yad sadaka mastadim azeh. Very interesting. By pay and tzedakah, pay is also giving charity to the poor, corners of your field. So kosav arashba zal nami dazlin l'chomra. We go strict. Kivan that salku b'teku. Since we said it was a teku, therefore the din is that we have to go strict, and that which l'chor means it is tzedakah and it is payah. V'chein kosav haramban zal b'hilchosav. Fine. The kaimel anami the whole teku di isur l'chomra. Whenever you have a teku, when it comes to an isser, we always go strict. Okay, that's one way of reading it. Skipping about 8 lines, the Ran says, "Shesafik mamoin eniyim hari hu safik mamon azlinin be'lakula lenitva almasfek lakula." Actually, this is not talking about safik isser. We're talking about safik mamoin. The question is, do you have to lose this money? So maybe here we should say that since it's a suffix, so suffix mamoin, we're not going to have you lose that money. We're going to say maybe that it's not going to go to this person. So this is how he writes this. So it's questions, how do you look at it? Perhaps, again, we're talking about a case of mamoin, so it's suffix mamoin. Okay. Weiter. Let's see TA12. Omer hadain beisel have beisa kisei v'hadain miboy b'gemar aser mahim beis hasveikos mezeh. Do we say yesh zimel lebeisa kisei? Do we say yesh yad lebeisa kisei? That was TA12. So I definitely got that one right. So as the Gemara says, it is chada migoy chada miboy miboyle zimun moil ein zimun moil beimtim solem yesh zimun yesh yad o ein yad. Okay, weiter. So the Mishnah concluded manuda nilocha v'chulu. So it says, going all the way back to the beginning of our Masechta, I think. Manuda nilocha, right? So we have the question, that statement, is that a valid neder? Or is that a proper kinoi? So Rabbi Kiva hayachochech bozel hachmer. Rabbi Kiva was unsure what the din is when it comes to saying that language of manuda nilocha, and he goes strict. Okay, which we're going to have to understand. What does that mean, going strict? So Rashi over there says, "Hamimachachech lahachmer de aser nami de inyan nederhu v'lo barle." Even though it's not clear, he says it is a neder. Okay, now let's see the Gemara on this. Amar by Moed Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva will at least agree in this situation. Moed Rabbi Kiva inyan malchus she'enu loike, that if you don't uphold your words, we're not going to give you malchus like we normally do. Di'im kain, because otherwise, nisti Rabbi Kiva machmir. He should just say strict. It says the Ran, choichech kadem shu mesupik b'davar. The language of choichech, it sounds not that he was confident that the din is to be strict. He was just unsure, and therefore, when it comes to malchus, we're not going to give malchus. Says the Ran, Deha Mesfeka who Shahaya Machmer V'lo Haya Hadavar Borulo. Since it wasn't so clear, he's not going to give you malchus. Amar Papa, in the situation where he says Benadina Minach Koyamlo Pligin de Aser. If you say that language, then it's clear that it's Aser, and you will get malchus. Says the Ran, Umihu Davka B'de Amar Shani Oichlacha. You also have to say Shani Oichlacha, and you say Benednida minach. However, if let's say you said Misham minach, so you said it in that language, which sounds a lot like being put in excommunication, L'koyamla shari. In that situation, everyone says that is your mutter, because the Ran she'in zel lashon neder el lashon shamta. This is saying that you're excommunicated. So it's not the same thing as making a neder against someone. So b'mai pligi. So what do they argue? B'menuda, says the Ran, shafu lashon richuk v'hevdel. This is also a language of separating and distancing yourself. As we continue to Zayin Amud Aleph, Zayin Amud Beis rather. So b'menuda nilacha. Actually, there's a little more language. B'menuda nilacha. So if you said b'menuda nilacha, that's where they argue. What's that? Rabbi Kiva Savar Lishna Denidoihu. That's a language of separating. That's a language of distancing yourself. Rabbanan Sabri Lishna Demishamtanahu. That's again also language of excommunication, and therefore it's not a lashon of a neder. There was actually a machlokas Rav Chisda regarding this matter. Dahahu Garba, there's a certain person. The Omer Mishamtana Minichse, the Bereda Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. So he said, I'm going to Mishamtana for the estate of Bereda Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. So what did that mean? Did he talking about excommunication, or is he talking about a neder against deriving benefit? So Asa Kamid Rav Chisda Amalei Leis Chashashla. No one should be concerned of the potential of Rabbi Kiva that's a valid neder. Ksavar, because he holds Rav Chisda b'mishamtana pligi, that actually the whole argument is b'mashtana, whether or not it's lashon cher or not. But this is certainly, according to him, not a lashon of cher. Rabbi Loy, Rav. So now we have a little bit of a different piece explaining certain dinim of excommunication. Nidahu b'fanav. Let's say that a person was put into nidoy, into cherem. He was excommunicated in his presence. Ein matirin lo el b'fanav. The only way you could release him, you also have to release him in front. So if it's done in a court, you have to do it in front. nidahu shel b'fanav. On the other hand, if let's say you excommunicate someone and you didn't do it in his presence, so matirin lo ben b'fanav ben shel b'fanav. Then it's not necessary that you have to do it in front of him. You can do it even not in front of him. So the Ran explains this a little bit. Top line: the kivan de b'fanav nidahu. Since you excommunicated him in front of him, so the din is olam nidoi. This is a very strong nidoi. V'lo me'aker el b'fanav. The only way it can be removed is also in front of him. So dumi deman de'amrin be'perak ha'sholeach, like it's brought down Masechtas Gittin, kol milsa demis avida be'asara. Anytime it was done in front of 10 people, sarach be'asara lemishlafa. You also need 10 to remove it. So it doesn't mean we're talking about with 10 people, but it means that the way things were done initially is how it's got to be removed. So if it was done, the cherem was placed upon this person with a in front of him, so that's how it has to be. V'lo I don't understand that the reason is because we're strict. That has to be the same. Al time of the milsa, the reason is a totally different reason. Mishum chshada, where you have the issue of being suspect. The imatirin lo shabafanav. If we would matir this person not in front of him, right? So he doesn't even know necessarily if he was excommunicated. Pamim shiatiruhu. Sometimes maybe they will free him, not in front of him. V'hamenuda lo yeda. But the one who is excommunicated doesn't know this. And those who are not noig nidoi, they will come to chshad. In other words, people are they're gonna think, because he's gonna say I'm still in cherem, and all of a sudden people are not treating him as such, and therefore it could lead to a chshad that people are not taking the rulings of excommunication seriously, even though the truth is maybe someone just knew that it was removed, but he didn't know about it. Fine, so that's the whole concern. Aval says the Ran, nidahu shel b'fanav, it was not in front of him, leichashada. We're not afraid. She'afu savar, because the guy will think shemehetiruhu shel b'fanav, kishem shenidoi shel b'fanav. Just like they put it upon me, not in front of me, they could have removed it as well. So therefore, it removes the issue of chshad. Skipping a couple of lines into the Ran, kol shi'oidi'uhu, anytime someone knows about something, the leichashada, matirin lo shel b'fanav. It's allowed to be done not in front of him. The whole shehitiruhu nami afal pi shelo hodiuhu mutter di'avad. So let's look at question 2 over here. B'taima de milsa di nidahu b'fanav. The reason of excommunicating someone in front, the ein matirin lo el b'fanav, that it has to be done in front of him. B'tchilas ksav haran mishum de b'fanav olim, is because the fact that you did it in front we're very strict. It must be a very strict and serious cherem. V'lo mi'aker el dum midachal. It's only going to be removed the same way that it was placed. Umaskana kasav around the time of mishum chshad. But he ended up saying no, it's because of chshad. Mehem beis hanaf gaminos shebein hamafarshim. So what are the two differences? So he says like this: Latam hachshad. When it comes to the whole issue of chshad, kol shehoidiuhu, anyone who knows about it, matirin lo shel b'fanav, should be allowed to him even if it was done not in front of him. Or latam chashad b'di'evid mutter, that b'di'evid it is mutter. Okay, not an easy question, but that is the answer. Okay. All right, let's go weiter. The Gemara says as follows: Nidahu shelo b'fanav. Oh, so he said if you communicate him not in front of him, matirin lo ben b'fanav ben shelo b'fanav. Omer Rav Chanan Omer Rav hayshameh haskaras Hashem. If a person hears the haskaras Hashem, and Rashi says not just you heard Hashem's name, is shemoitzi shem shemayim levatal. If you say Hashem's name in vain, and you hear you heard someone just saying Hashem's name continuously, which shows a total lack of respect, you need to speak up and excommunicate this person. However, this is an unbelievable line. If you just turn a blind eye and you don't do anything, you also should be put into excommunication. You're also part of the problem. Shekol Makam Shaskars Hashem Matsuya, any time that Hashem's name is mentioned in vain, Sham Anius Matsuya, their poverty will also be found. The Anius Kamisa. And a poor person is likened to someone who is dead. Shnemer Kimesu Kol Hanashim, because of the pasuk Kimesu Kol Hanashim. So first of all, let's look in Rashi. Shnemer Kimesu Kol Hanashim. Amrinan Hainu Dasan Vavirim Shenafel Banius. Dasan Avirim became poor. So therefore, since Dasan Avirim had died, it's Kiu. Oh yeah, all those people that caused problems in Mitzrayim, they're all dead. They weren't dead; they were just poor. But a person who doesn't have money doesn't really have any power, and therefore they don't really have much ability to do much. Let's just see another line in the Gemara. Batanya kol makam shenasu chachamim meinehem. Whenever the chachamim cast their eyes on a person, o misa o oini, either death or poverty. Says Rashi, o adam shenidoi, a person who is put in excommunication, o mes o nofel banias. That's the reason why you put him into cherem, because putting him into cherem is like putting someone into poverty, and a person who's put into poverty is akin to almost to the death penalty. Now let's look in the Ran. So the Ran says, "Shekol makom b'chol makom asher asker eshmi avu yelecha v'rachticha." So anytime that Hashem hears His name, so He will bless that person. Umidaskars Hashem l'mitzvah. When a person does say Hashem's name properly, it brings blessing and wealth. So askar l'shav goremas anius. We can understand the opposite. If you're saying Hashem's name for nothing, that actually is poverty. Shnemer kimesu kol nashim says around the lo mesu mamish. Dasan Avirim didn't actually die. The mahavi havu the chol makam shnemer nitzim v'nitzavim enu el dasan vavirim. We find that dasan Avirim do reemerge throughout the certain sections. The inhu havi b'machloka shel kairach. They were involved in a lot of problems. El nibnei she'anu, because they became poor. Amar kimesu. The avgad armin and hasim de arba chashim kimes, that there are 4 people that are considered like they're dead. An ani, someone who's poor. The suma, someone who's blind. Umetzaira, someone who has leprosy. Umishein lo banim, and someone who also does not have children. Those are the 4 people. Hachavadi manias kaimer. Here, certainly, it's not just choosing one of those 4. It's certainly poverty. And we skip down a couple of lines. So it's very interesting that once a person is poor, their words are not going to be heard. They're considered to be equal in a sense. So basically what we're saying is, if a person is put into excommunication, which it doesn't just mean they're excommunicated, it means that because of that, they're not able to, people are not going to interact with them, so they're not going to do business with them. So you can understand how that could potentially lead to poverty. So therefore, nidoi creates poverty. That's part of the punishment. It's not just they're being excommunicated. It causes poverty because no one does business with them. No one does anything with them. And therefore, it's going to make them impoverished. And that's exactly what happens. So what person's in cherem, he's going to achieve either poverty or death. And that's the punishment for someone who speaks, says Hashem's name, and if you say Hashem's name properly, you're blessed. And you get wealth, which is mashma. If you say it, you're going to get poor. So how does a person become poor? The way we make a person poor is making them, excommunicating them. Okay. So again, when the chachamim put this person into nidoi, that's what ends up happening. Okay. He heard this girl, the Afga Haskars Hashem of Atala. And she was saying Hashem's name of Atala. So Shamta, they put her into cherem. Usharul and altar ba'apa. And then afterwards they released her in front of her. So Shema min Atala. Shema min Hashem haskars Hashem epi chavero tzarech lenadaisai. Once you hear it, you have to excommunicate them. Ushma min nidahu b'fanav. If you excommunicated this person, which they did in front of her, in matinu el b'fanav, it had to be done in front of her. Ushma mina ein bein nidul hafara v'lo klum. There's no difference between the nidoi and the annulling of it v'lo klum. There's any time. It can be done right away, which means that the punishment doesn't have to be forever. It could be a quick punishment, but at least you're making a point that it's unacceptable behavior. It says Rashi, "Don't tzarich liyos yom yomayim benidoi, they'll alter sharila." Amrav Gidol Amarav Talmud Chacham Menadol Atzmo Meifrel Atzmo. A person who's a Talmud Chacham is allowed to actually be menada himself, and also to do the same thing to be Meifrel Atzmo, to annul it himself. So, which is a little bit unusual to understand what this is talking about. So pshita, first of all, it's a davar pashut. Like why would we say that he should not be able to do it? Says the Ran Ksav Harashba that Davka Hechadoli Havi Bar Nidui. This is only the situation where he really doesn't deserve to be punished. Kihad Demar Zutra the Midas Chasidus Ba'alma. He's just doing it as Midas Chasidus. Mishum Yikra Debar Beirav Havi Mishemes Navshe Ava Kishanida Atzma Al Davar Shahaya Chayvel of Nidoi. But let's say he's actually supposed to get Nidoi, Lo Kol Himenu Lahater Atzmo. He's not able to free himself. So he's only allowed to do it if he actually doesn't deserve it. But if he deserved it, then he can't free himself. So in this, the Ran says, V'hikshul Avim Kain Hechi Makshule Hashas Pshita. So why was this such a davar pasha? As Gemara is going to say, it should maybe say Havalei Meimer Amai. Lafikach Amr the B'chol Inyan Shenida Es Atzma Meifel Atzmo. Then all matters. V'chein Das HaRambam Mihilchos Talmud Torah B'Isim Mimixas Mafarshim Shekasu Dlugar Sinim Pshita. Some say don't say Pshita. Okay. So anyway, L'chayra. So it's a machlokas whether or not, it's brought down the Ran, whether or not this is talking about even the situation where he's supposed to be put in cherem anyway. So the Gemara says pshita. If you're locked up in prison, you can't free yourself, so maybe he shouldn't be able to free himself. Kamash Mulan. So hechadami. So kiha de Mar Zutra Chasida. Like the story of Mar Zutra Chasida. Ki mechayiv bar beirav shamta. When Bar Beirav needed to be put in cherem, Mishamis Nafshe Beresha. He would actually excommunicate himself first, which is mashma, says the Ran, Kadeshul Yitzruchu B'nei Beisel Esrachik Mimenu. Mashma in the Meduda feel B'nei Beisel no Hagen Bo Nidoi. That even people in the house are Nidoi. Other Mishamit Bar Beirav. The Chiyala Beisel, when he went to his house, Sharul and Afshi freed himself, a Hadar Sharilei, and then he freed him, or removed the nidoi from him. Okay, so look at question. We're going to stop there. TB13. Talmud Chacham Nudal Atzmo Neifel Atzmo Bezen Nidu Meduber. So this is TB13. I got this totally wrong. So according to the Rashba, Dafka Kishanida Atzmo Mimidas Chasidus. Avol Mischayev Nidoi Lav Kokimina. The Rambam says B'chol Nidoi Hadin B'Talmud Chacham Kain Adkan.